But anyway, so without further ado, we're going to be finally going into a topic that was I can't even talk right now. A topic that was chosen to be revisited. It's about the Sin Eater. And specifically, when I'm talking about a Sin Eater, I'm talking about the ability of a Sin Eater. So I'm going to give a little bit of time for everybody that has subscribed to me or anything like that to come flocking in. I'm going to throw this around like I'm just going to throw this all over the place like rice being thrown at a wedding. It's kind of a weird way to make a comparison, but we'll go with it. And as well, just for, come on, there we go. And just for reference, the Sin Eater is not pretty much saying that it has that polarity of good versus evil or any kind of that woozy-wooey BS thing. None of that. No. It's actually comparing it to negative energy being consumed, if that makes sense. So, anyway. The original term Sin Eater comes from an actual used to be practice that was done in Europe around, I can't remember the exact time frame, but essentially the way that it went was somebody who was of a higher class, like of a nobleman or high middle class around there, somebody was dying and they wanted to have a sure 100% allowance into heaven, as it was believed. So what the practice was is they would go out and they would find somebody to pretty much listen to the dying person's will, or like they confess all the wrongs that they did. They went out trying to find somebody who would do that. So they ended up, what they were doing, they went to pretty much people that were homeless, beggars, didn't have anything to eat. They actually made a proposition with them in exchange for them listening to the dying person's wishes and their life and their rights, wrongs, what have you. In exchange for that, they would be getting food and shelter and comfort in exchange for it. Which, on the surface level, it sounds great. Up until that person's now going to die. Because now that person, when they pass away, they're taking on all of what that other person did. That's what it is being a Sin Eater, because you're taking on everything for somebody else. You're taking the blow for somebody else. It's not, best way to put it, it's not something that is to be taken lightly, because it's very taxing on somebody's health, it's taxing on somebody's emotional health, taxing on somebody's mental health. It's just taxing all around. It can really bring down somebody if you're not really knowing what you're getting yourself into. But now, with that being said, though, essentially, the best way I can put it, imagine a Sin Eater is essentially like an energy vampire, but taking it up quite a notch. As an energy vampire feeds on positive energy, the Sin Eater can feed on that same energy like any other normal energy vampire, except the Sin Eater can actually feed on the negative energy, including karmic energy. Like, for example, say like if somebody did something harmful in their previous life and they have karmic backlash to pay, well, the Sin Eater can actually go in, take that from them, and that way they don't have to experience it. And then that senior gets afflicted with it. And then they have to be prepared to face that backlash whenever it comes. Then you're probably thinking, well, that sounds like a really good thing for somebody to have. It is, but it's also a very detrimental thing to have. For an example, and actually I'll share an example of my own. A few years ago, a friend of mine, she had a dog, and the dog was perfectly fine, acting normal, and then all of a sudden it just felt like it was sick, and it was just down and depressed. And I was sitting on the couch, and then she was all concerned, like, "Oh, I hope she didn't eat anything bad. I hope she's okay." And she was freaking out a lot more vibrantly than I was. So then, pretty much, I just looked at the dog, and I just tapped my leg for her to come up. She looks up. She just walks over very like, jumps up, and then sits in my lap. And then all that I did is I just put my arms on it and just petted it, but also I was focusing in onto it. And with my left hand, I was starting to brush the dog a little bit more. And then I felt something dark and pretty heavy. And then as soon as I felt that, that's when I just softly pushed. And then I just moved my hand up. And then I just petted the dog on the head. In a matter of like a few seconds later, the dog just lifts up, looks at my friend, jumps down, walks over to her, and jumps in her lap. Then, like out of nowhere, the dog literally jumps flying off her lap, lands right on the floor, starts jumping and spinning in circles, all happy, like if nothing ever happened. And she's looking at me all, "What did you do?" "I got rid of it." "Well, how'd you do that?" "I just did." And that's what a senior does. Because now that dog was relieved from that, but then I got afflicted with it. And then actually shortly thereafter, when she left with her dog, I got very sick. Very sick. Like my stomach was turning. I was having hot flashes. I don't know how to transmute energy when you pull it. That's what can happen to you. I want to make sure that this live chat thing's on. Okay. All right. So it can be a really beneficial thing, but if you don't know how to transmute your energy, you can get yourself into hot water if you're attempting to do this. And keep in mind that not everybody can do this, because if somebody's not able to completely make themselves completely blank, like a blank slate, you're not going to be able to pull. Because if you have like other things saying like, well, this person doesn't have a job, they're worthless, you're not going to be able to do it. You have to be able to look at someone as a human being only. And whatever you see attached to them, that's when you pull. Because if you go at them in a space of like, well, this person doesn't have a job or anything like that, they're just a waste of space. The minute you start looking at that and you start pulling, you're actually taking their energy and now you're afflicting yourself with your own stuff. So really you're taking their energy and now you're poisoning it, and now you're like self-poisoning yourself. You have to go at them in a blank slate. You have to be neutral and see it for how it is. Person who has trauma, pull the trauma out. You're a blank slate, you're pulling the trauma out and you're taking it onto yourself. But now when you take something off of them, they're not going to be afflicted with it anymore. Doesn't matter how grave or how damaging it is. But keep in mind, there are some instances, like for example, somebody has a psychological disorder, mental disorder. It's going to take a long time and a lot of work. And you may not be successful. That's just the harsh reality of it. But I can say from my experience, I've actually have seen some improvement on someone that I've been doing it on. There has been improvement, a lot of improvement, but there's still a lot that still has to be worked on. But there's still improvement. So it has potential, but you have to understand that you have to know how much you're pulling, and you need to know how to transmute it and get rid of it. Because if you just pull and get yourself afflicted with it, you're going to get yourself into a big mental and emotional breakdown that it's going to be very catastrophic. And I'm guilty of not being able to transmute properly. And it's not something pretty. And it's actually an ability that's been seen in, I believe, I'm going to try and recall precisely. I believe it's in Mayan mythology of Tezcatlipoca, which is a divine from that region that's about the dark and the shadow mirror, or using the dark. He's also a divine that's a sin eater. Hell is a sin eater, believe it or not. It's that recurring theme of being able to see another as they are and not be influenced by anything else, but just focus on them and trying to improve and better them, or being able to look without any kind of judgment attached to it. It's very similar to vampirism, but instead of feeding off of somebody's positive energy, you're actually feeding off of somebody's negative energy. It's a skill that can be very beneficial, and you can actually cause a lot of good and also help a lot of people finally be rid of something that they've been plagued with for so long. But it's, again, it can be just as detrimental to you as it is helping somebody else. There's nothing wrong with helping somebody else, but if you don't know how to help yourself while helping them, you get crippled. Now you're crippled, they're good, but now you're crippled. And that's not something you need to do. You don't need to put yourself in deep doo-doo just to make someone get out of their deep doo-doo. Because there are some things that even a sin eater should not even go towards. Like, for an example, if somebody has done something that's too heavy, and that's up to the sin eater to decide. Because sin eater does not have to rescue or safeguard or cure anybody's BS. They don't have to. They're taking the choice on themselves to go, okay, I'm not going to let this person suffer anymore. And then they take that off of them, but they get afflicted with it. So they're free, but that's their choice to actually relieve someone. They don't have to really help anybody. They can keep it to themselves, but you really do have to have the ability to transmute the energy that you pull. Because if you can't transmute it, you're still going to shoot yourself in the foot every single time when you attempt this. And you have to be able to turn off and being able to not be influenced by somebody. A crystal that I heavily suggest if you're going to be attempting to do anything sin eater related is shungite. Shungite is essentially a bottom feeder, like the fish bottom feeders? Yeah, shungite is like a stone of that. It feeds on the negative energy, and it pretty much sucks the negative out and only leaves the positive in. And when you're doing any kind of work like that, and it's just like if you're doing any kind of vampirism, except you're targeting the negative and you're pulling it. Except when you're pulling, you'd want to, depending on your shungite piece, in this case I have a pyramid. In this case, you would have, for the example, say if you're trying to pull negative energy off of someone, what you would do, in this case for me, take your shungite piece, put it in the center of the hand like that, but make sure that you have enough room so that way you can actually pull. Like there's enough that the energy can come through. Be pushing it inward like that, but as you're doing the pulling of the negative energy, you're focusing on, okay, I'm just going to use the two people that are paying attention, so hope you like being guinea pigs, but essentially what's going to be done is that you're going to focus in, and then you're just really just going to visualize pulling the energy out, and it's going to go into your hand, but it's going to go through the shungite piece. So when you pull it, when pulling the energy through, it's going to be going right into this, going to go right into this shungite piece, right in the black square. And then when it's getting filtered, all that's going in is only the positive energy. All the negative is going to go right into here. That's your way of transmuting it. Or if you want to, another way that you can actually do it, if you rather have it be not going into your skin like that, you can actually take the negative energy with just the bare and pull it through, And then when you're redirecting and moving it back out, you would actually take it in the reverse, like this, like that. So you pull clear, and then as you're pulling it through, you're then pushing out positive energy instead. That's another way you can also go about it. That is, if you want to be extra fancy with this and take somebody's negative, transmute it, and give it back in positive. You can do that because energy can't be created or destroyed. It can only be influenced and manipulated, as the state of matter says it. It's actually a really beneficial ability, and it's not really talked about that much because it's not really that common. It comes in once in a while, and I've heard some people talk about it, and they're trying to figure out how it is. But again, you have to be able to transmute, and the best way to do transmutation is you can either, one, hold onto a piece of shungite and actually push into that stone with your right hand all the energy that you just absorbed and put it right into the stone. Or another way is you just simply, once you have the energy on you, you just completely go into a cleansing bath, a cleansing ritual. But if it's a karmic thing, you really have to focus intensely onto it and to actually have it be purified. Because if you don't really 100% purify that karmic energy, it's going to still hit you in the face. Or if you want to be a little bit on the, we'll go with it. If you want to be a little bit more on the more, let's just say on the more of the darker side with it, nothing wrong with it, it is what it is. You can actually take, like here's a good example. Say for an example, if somebody is going through a time period where they're actually being abused by somebody and the abuser is causing havoc in their life, well, really, what the sender can do, take that negative energy off the victim and actually then afflict the abuser with it. Because they're taking that negative energy off of them and they're redirecting it right back to the abuser. And it's just like energy swifting. It's when you take one energy, you're moving it down a line into something else. And that's actually something I haven't even heard anybody talk about. That's another option. Or what you can also do is just take the energy once you pull it off of someone. As soon as you got it, then just push it down into the earth. Like put your hand like on the ground and just push it through back into the ground below you. That's another way. I mean, there's so many ways that you can actually transmute, but there's a lot of people that are not talking about transmutation and not really giving it as much importance as needed. Because if you're wanting to do this, you can do a lot of benefits to somebody's life, but again, you have to be able to transmute, you have to be able to withstand the negative energy, you have to be able to put yourself in a situation where no matter how mortifying and taxing it is to you, you have to be able to understand and comprehend that this is not me, this is somebody's experiences in my head, and I'm starting to pretty much have them be played out in my head. They're not mine. I just have to get them out, transmutated, and away as fast as possible. Because if you succumb to them, it's going to now get a hold of you and bring you down. And when it brings down like an anvil being dropped off the Empire State Building. Yeah, that's strong when that happens. It's it can be very dangerous. And if somebody actually has, say, like an energy spirit attached to it or just some kind of entity attached to it, if you pull that onto yourself, that entity might get attached to you too. That's just the reality of it. And you got to be able to understand how to banish an entity that you don't want off of you. And you want nothing to do with it, because if you don't, you bring that entity to you, you could actually also risk getting possession happening to you. It's a risk. It is what it is. It's not something that is to be taken lightly. And I'm just somebody who likes to teach it in a way that's like, this is how it is. It's not pretty, but it can be done for good if you know how to do it. You do it wrong, well, yep, that's just a potential risk. Everything in this field has risk. Everything. Even simply reading a tarot card has risk. It does. You can actually mess up somebody's mental health by just drawing a tarot card just like that. That's funny, that's actually the world in this deck. That the littlest things can cause the most damage, but the biggest things can actually be taken on and actually made to be something that they really are, instead of being the big terror. It just all comes down from perspective. And you can also use this Sin Eater ability not only on people, you can also use it on objects. Such an example, say like if this tarot deck was plagued with something negative, you can actually absorb that, fling it off of it, make it back to its void state. Same thing with artifacts and historical objects. Like for example, you go into a museum. Okay, fine. I don't know why I just thought that, but we'll go with it. For example, like the doll that's in what was that those couples' names? The ones, Lorraine or something? The ones that we were talking, that was about investigating ghosts and paranormal sites. They were really, really well known for that. But like their Annabelle doll, if you know how to do it, and if you're actually grounded enough and able to stay focused, you can actually transmute that too. You can. Just you're going to have to be really focused on it. And you're going to have to understand that entity attached to that doll is probably more likely at first going to be very hostile, very aggressive. But even then, most of the time, with an entity like that, I would say I'm kind of surprised that nobody's actually gone towards it and actually addressed it to see, why are you acting like this? Is there an issue? What's wrong? What is making you behave this way? Is there something that's angering you, upsetting you? Because if you go towards an entity or a being like that, more than likely, hopefully, it'll actually converse with you to be able to help it finally be resolved. Because putting something in a cage when it's been not listened to and is getting frustrated and agitated, causing all this damage, and when it's being mocked, saying like, oh, that's not real, it's not going to do anything, of course it's going to make it mad, because it feels like it's not being listened to. And of course the whole argument saying, well, it's an object that has a demonic fiend attached to it. That could be true, yeah. Although, if there is no attempt to actually try to actually converse with it, to be trying to understand what's wrong with it, what's wrong, what's bothering it, why is it acting this way, what's causing it, does it have anything that's unresolved that needs to have resolution, does it need help? It's about time you got here. I'm just like, how come there's nobody here? No, I'm just messing. But that doll, the Annabelle doll, for as long as it's been in existence, I'm surprised nobody's really had the idea to actually try and converse with an entity attached to it. If there has been an attempt and that entity is not having it still, and it's still being out of line, then of course you can put it in the cage and then leave it there. Oh, because sometimes I'm wondering if people are watching and they're just not, people just are not like letting me know that, oh, I'm here, okay. Because sometimes I think, I don't know, these people are actually watching. I think they have the computer open and they're just looking at something else, but nonetheless. But there are other instances, like say, actually, wait a minute, that the Annabelle doll, I'll stop at you. Stop trying to have me buy you chocolate or something. But still, nonetheless. I'm kind of surprised that people haven't even gone about that in that approach. Same thing with like hauntings and other instances like that, because there are options to get those beings finally able to move along and get them to stop lingering on something that's not finished. Same thing with like an intranquil spirit. Now, I completely lost my train of thought. But say, well, I did say person, place, and thing. Hey, Kayla. Another thing, you can also use this Sin Eater ability to transmutate locations and places, which I have not done. It's possible, But the only thing is that if you're going to transmutate... Let me know when that thing in between your legs is done making that noise. Oh, that didn't sound good. Something sounded like it went bang, bang, out it goes. Bang, bang, out he goes. Thank God. Nonetheless. When you transmutate, for an example, a place or a location, you have to understand you're taking energy that has been there probably... It's layers upon layers of... No. Keep blowing your raspberries, dude. Hopefully, you won't get your tongue bit off when doing them. But nonetheless, when you're transmutating a location or a place, it's layers upon layers upon layers upon layers of not only animal life, human life, plant life, because all of those still have had some kind of energy. I don't know. But just like where I live, there happens to be a bunch of people getting on their Polarises or one of those things, and dune buggies and dirt bikes, and for some reason thinks that everybody likes to hear them make the noise repeatedly. I don't. In fact, it kind of does make me really want to go out there sometime when they're really causing a loud scene and just go, do you guys have gas problems? You should get that looked at. But far away from me. But that's just me. Because I don't like it. I don't like that noise at all. But when you're transmutating land, you have to understand you're going to be taking on experiences from the plants, the animals, and also those that are buried below the ground. Because the ground is layers upon layers upon layers of those that have passed away. And if you're actually taking energy from a gravesite, and you're trying to like transmutate that, if there's like some baneful activity going on there, understand that you have to be very careful not to transmutate somebody who has passed on. You have to be very careful with that. But nonetheless, you can make the cemetery a place that is pure and peaceful and energized, so that way anybody can come in and feel at peace. But you have to be very careful not to transmutate the passed on people that still reside there. Because if you transmutate them, at least I know what will happen to me. Hell would probably snap my neck. And I would not blame her. That's why you gotta be extra on alert with that. And it's not really a benefit or damaging thing to have. It's just you have to be very careful with how you do it. Being empathic is a good thing, but it can also risk being abused by somebody else who attempts to do it and use it. But nonetheless, really, you really have to be able to understand how to take energy and then transmute it and then get rid of it. Or if you want to get extra fancy, to take energy, transmute it, and then give it back to someone to actually get them to a place of like, to uplifting them. It takes some time to actually get it down and put it in practice, but once you got it, well, you're good. It's just some instances can be a lot more harder to deal with and a lot more harder to pull, transmute, and then get rid of. It just all depends on the circumstance in hand. So, really, other than that, that's what I really got for seniors. So I'm going to give this up to now being open floor about any kind of questions regarding anything magic related. Or if readings want to be done, just put in the chat box or whatever, saying, read me, you flamer, or something like that. And, of course, the super chat thing's on, so if you deem fit to throw anything super chat at me, I would pretty much be so flattered and adore it if you did. And I would even, heck, no, actually, I won't do that. I was to say, I'll even do a backflip for one. No, I won't. Because if I tried doing that, I might kill myself. Because I probably would land on my neck. I don't want me to land on my neck. So, oh. It's open floor to anything that wants to be asked. Reading-wise, I'll probably keep this on for like another 5 minutes or so. And then I'll fly away. If something does happen, well, okay, here I am to keep things happening. I guess. I know I got nothing. I just work here. See what else is new. Otherwise, well, the memberships, I'm thinking about redoing them because nothing's happened with them. Because, I mean, I have already so many things that I want to get put underway with it and to get it all up and running, but I don't have any members to get it up and running for, so it's like, what's the point? It's like, okay, members that have none of you, this is how this is going to go. It's like, I'll be talking to myself, and I don't like talking to myself all by myself. Because it's just like, oh, I'm going to give myself moral support for whatever reason. Woo! Ow, my ankle. Let's see. Literally, any question regarding anything, anything, even if it's something as simple as like, how do I get this ghost to stop bothering me? He keeps like coming into my room at night and giving me the woozy woos, and he keeps freaking out rid of him. You can threaten him. I mean, you can just tell him, you know, the amount of time that you keep fanboying towards me every night, you know, I'm so flattered that you love me that much, but I don't think it's going to work, dude, because you don't, you know, I'm not going to be able to feel nothing because you don't have a physical body. So scram. You're not dead enough. I don't know, I got nothing. Oh, actually, Alex, you remember that one that what was it? Oh crap. That one that was, I have not summoned Azazel before. No, I have not. But I have actually, so far I've invited Dantalion, I've invited King Paimon, which has been a riot. I don't consider Lilith a demon because she's not really, she's more of a divine. But that, yeah, Alex, that one entity that pretty much, even though I wasn't there, I was just saying, okay, tell your friend to pretty much say to it what I'm saying to it. Okay, who are you? Well, I'm the, God, I can't remember what he said he was. I'm the great, whatever his name was. I'm the great, and that's who I am. Take it or leave it. Hey, easy, Cupcake. Hey, as far as I know, you might be someone who is, you know, fake, and not someone who is who you say you are. Don't you think, you know, if you were this great king thing, don't you think you'd want to flaunt your crown and your scepter? But that's none of my business, but don't you think you'd want to flaunt yourself instead of being like, take it or leave it? Now, Satanas and Lucifer, that depends on the individual. To me, at least, I see them as separate. But they do have the same end intent in mind. While Lucifer goes at things a lot more of a brighter and uplifting way, Satanas is more of the 3D practical, like that's how it is. Deal with it. While Lucifer is all like, well, why don't we try making something fun out of this? Let's enjoy this. Satanas is like, that's what you're going to go up against. Deal with it. The energies are different, but their same intention is the same. While one wants to go things in a more uplifted, bright way, the other one is like, this is life, take it. While the other one goes, well, life is meant to be enjoyed. This is what life is. It's the same intent, but different. But yeah, if that makes any sense. And how did that... Yeah, and then I was just... And how I pretty much helped... Well, I'm not sure if he actually kept the thing around. But I kind of just, like, put it in a state where it's like, well, listen, dude, if you're supposed to be this great king, why are you bothering these two? Well, his great grandmother made a pact for them. Now, when you actually do invite one of them in, it all kind of also depends on which one you invite in. Now, there's numerous ways that you can actually communicate with them. There's so many ways. But usually by default, the most common way is to actually communicate by telepathy. Like, you'll start getting thoughts that are different. That's one way. Another way you can go about it is using where to go. You can actually use a scrying mirror. And then pretty much what you do is you gaze into the mirror, but you have like a candle flame in it and the whole room is dark. You can just look into the mirror. And then you'll be seeing what comes through based on your subconscious. There's that way. Then there's the other way, which probably I might be able to demonstrate. That is if he doesn't mind coming through. Let me see here. Okay, now we can grab two more things real quick. I hope they were able to. There's one of them at least. One. Dang it. And for this case, I'm going to be easy cupcake with the door opening. So, what I'm going to do is actually kind of show, at least how I like to, make communication with the Dantalian. Now, you don't have to have a focus point, but when you have a focus point, it actually helps you kind of like hold on to something. Because since this is me specifically for him, he's kind of already attached to it. So you actually hold on to the piece and then you just make the connection mentally. You can do it that way. But what I like to do, and this might make you go, what the heck is he doing? But that's just how Dantalian is as an entity. Let me see. So essentially what I like to do, because since this is kind of like a mirror, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to actually have him come through, speak, and then as soon as he's finished, actually you're going to see me look downward, and then I'm going to speak, and then I'm going to talk like as if I'm talking to him. And then when I look back, it's going to be Dantalian come through. If that makes sense. Yeah, I'll just show you. Why are you bothering me now? Why are you being like that, dude? Why? Come on, be nice. I am nice. Gay boy. Nope. I don't want to. Are you not in a good mood or something? I'm always in a good mood. Sucker. Well, Dantalian, everybody. Applause. Damn it. Good Lord, Lando. You know, I just adore you, right? I hate you too. Sheesh. Dantalian, you're dismissed if you'd like to go. Oh, yeah, that's kind of an idea, except I'd be pretty much only talking with myself. And whew, he's kind of like an Animaniac that's, well, if you've seen the show, the Animaniacs off of Warner Brothers, I think that's what it was. Yeah, he kind of acts like that sometimes. He's a sweetheart, but sometimes he gets into those moods. And another way you can do is also automatic writing. And usually, if you have a connection to said entity, they will linger around a little bit. But say, for example, if you happen to call out to, say, an entity like Andros. Now, Andros is quite the one that'll pretty much linger around for a while, and he, let's just say he can, best said, afflict a lot of dread and a lot of like, I don't know if I should go to sleep right now because I might kick the bucket. Yeah, he gets the job done. And by get the job done, meaning that it's done. But he can be quite the challenge to understand and work with his energy, but once you understand it, it becomes much easier over time. It's just you have to be very patient and go very slow and very carefully with them. So then, what was my next one? Now about Nyx. Yes, the primordial goddess of the night from Greek mythology, or Nox from the Roman. Yes, I do. And what would you like to know about Nyx? In the meantime, I'm gonna unhand milkshake. Let's go. Thank you. And what would you like to know about Nyx then? Well, let's see. I guess I'll just pick something out of the hat then. Nyx is... I've worked alongside her since... I would have to say pretty much till the end of 2017 was when I first made contact and first interacted with her. The end of 2017-ish. Like around November. So, up until now, yeah, I still work alongside her. She's kind of like my... Like, if I didn't have Hel, she would be like the second one I would go to. But since Hel is always around with me, so... Usually, I like to say Nyx is like the second closest I'm with. And pretty much she really doesn't get into doing any kind of workings that are causing harm to anybody else, but mainly more on expanding my thought process, rather. Because she's intentionally blind. She's blind. She doesn't favor or anything else at all because she sees every living being an entity as like a really great grandchild, if that makes sense. Because everything comes from the dark, and since she is the first being to exist, she sees everything as like a child to her. So she doesn't favor anybody, she doesn't despise anybody, she just sees a child. That's it. And she's blind because that way she doesn't have the opportunity to do more favoritism just by seeing how one of these beings looks. That way she doesn't pass judgment as she chooses one over the other. But she's... If you can handle being in the dark, and if you're not pretty much being afraid, because if you go towards Nyx and the slightest bit of fear comes out, she's going to be confused, because she's saying, why are you afraid of me? Why are you afraid of Grandmother Nyx, or Mother Nyx? Why are you afraid? She's not going to understand that, because she's seeing you come towards her, but you're afraid. It's like a child being afraid of mother. She's not going to understand that. And she does have a quote saying that all that the dark is a void that has everything you want within. So if it has everything that you want in there, and if you actually say what's in there, and if it gives you what you want that's in there, why be afraid of something that is eager to give you what you're saying that's in there and that you want? Why be afraid of it? If you believe that there's nothing but murder and death in there, well, that's what's going to come out of it. If you believe that all your desires and wishes are in there, well, that's what's going to come out of it. All the dark is just the void where everything you desire and want is. And as soon as you say what's in there, it gives you what's in there. Is a very cryptic message, but that's one of the things that she's kind of consistently reminded me about. Along with, you have to be able to see without your eyes, and then from there, that's when you can see everything. Or simply put, don't use these eyes, use this one, the third. That's how you can see everything. And funny enough, people that are blind, they can actually be able to see the world around them still, but just in a different way. Because seeing is more than just sight. Seeing is also hearing, smelling, tasting, feeling, and intuitively knowing something, like sensing a presence. That's also seeing. And she doesn't really play into any kind of like, say if you're doing curse work, she won't do anything like that. She'll help bring you peace and mend yourself, yeah, but she won't do any kind of workings that's actually going after someone. She's not really drawn to doing stuff like that. You might need to find somebody else who are willing to have her come around to be more of a baneful or damaging kind of an entity. And she is, I would like to best say, she's kind of more like a divine that's neutral, because what she does through, like, every day when the sun goes down, it's believed that's when she goes across the sky, and her veil and her dress pretty much cover the earth's sky, and the whole night and the stars are just pretty much her dress or veil, and the stars are just like pretty much sewn into her dress. And then when nighttime's over, she goes down onto the other side of the world and then coats that side of the night, and then her child Dawn actually comes up and brings the light, if that makes sense. And really, I would have to best say that she's more neutral than side with like Olympians or anything like that. In fact, she kind of rather just do what she's been doing. She doesn't fight for a cause, she just does her thing. But she is the oldest divine to exist, the oldest one. From her came everybody else. And chaos is not really an entity that has consciousness. It's just a being where it's just like we have no idea what it's doing. And then from chaos came Nyx, and then from Nyx came everybody else. It's quite the interesting family tree, if that makes sense. Especially when you start going cross-pantheon about it. Like, for example, Mott may potentially be Nyx herself too. Now, Tartarus is actually, ironically, also a sibling to Nyx. But Tartarus is the location. It's actually lower than Hades. And Tartarus is actually where Nyx resides when she's supposedly not on the night sky. Tartarus is also the place where the worst of the mortals go too, as well. That's also where the Hecatontries are also residing too, as well as some of the Titans that lost the battle against Zeus. That's another place where they reside. But infernal beings, like for example Satanas, Lucifer, and the left-hand divines, they do not reside in Tartarus. They're not part of that, no. Instead, what they are, they actually have their own place. Like, they have their own location, their own kingdom, their own location altogether. And it's not the same infernal as, say, like, the underworld. That's not the same thing. And Tartarus is not like the same underworld as, say, the left-hand divines, and they're infernal. It's not the same one. In fact, calling that infernal the same is not. They're not the same. Same thing with Hell's Niflheim and Helheim. It's an underworld, but it's infernal. Not at all. In fact, it's kind of the polar opposite of it. Not really. But now when it comes to, what was the next question of that? Did I work with Egyptian deities? Yes, I have worked with a total of 2. And funny enough, these 2 are actually part of the Left-Handed Divines as well. Bastet and Sekhmet. And funny enough, those 2, let me scoot you back just a tiny bit. Those 2, funny enough, I actually have them tattooed on my lower back. And then both, this is actually a part of a pact agreement, because I had to figure out a way, somehow, some way, to have them be like forever remembered by me in some way, shape, or form, like write a book or do something like that. But in this case, it's like, well, definitely not going to forget them and not, lose them ever, because they're kind of attached right there. So that's what I decided to do, to kind of give my respects back to them for helping me with whatever. It was actually to help me understand the other side better, along with kind of learning how to stick up for myself and table flip on people that need to get table flipped on. That was a while ago, though. Let's see what else. I haven't worked with Isis. I haven't worked with Ra. I haven't really worked with any other Egyptian deities, because I'm kind of. I used to know a lot more about it, but I've been pretty exploring other pantheons, though. But then again, like I've always been, I'm open to any kind of entity that comes towards me, as long as it doesn't throw a spear at me or something. For no just reason. Completely open, always open, but kind of still, I'm just letting the life go the way that it wants to go. Completely open, but not open to the point of BS happening. I can see the potential link, yes, but Sekhmet is a goddess of. Sekhmet does share the rage with Kali. However, Kali also may, well, in a way, it can be identical to. That's actually a really interesting point, because Sekhmet and Kali, they both heal by destruction. And Sekhmet's also a goddess that heals, despite, destroying a lot of Egypt. She still was able to kind of heal her whoopsie when she broke everything and snapped a lot of people in two. So I can kind of see the similarities, yes, but Sekhmet herself, she's more of a Mars energy of a goddess. Instead of Kali, she's more Saturnian. Because Saturnian has the point of restriction, and Kali knows, and she has the understanding of when to stop. Sekhmet kind of didn't, because Sekhmet had to get knocked out and to stop breaking stuff. If there's that small similarity. And Kali was kind of destroying and attacking and just completely decimating, because she had no other choice. She had to completely annihilate something, and up until, I can't remember which demon it was, but as soon as she was able to completely eradicate that demon, that's when she finished and she stopped. And actually, did you watch that video? I think it was the last one I did, and I actually talked about using a fan actually as a magical tool, and how you can actually have the intention to ride the wind. Did I show you that? Breathe here, Alex? I hope so. Because if not, well, looks like I get to show you how to use one of those then. Use one of these then for witchy poof stuff. Screw it. Okay. And yeah, this one's made of steel. Screw it, let's see here. So, actually, let me grab one thing real quick. Brownies. Where'd you put brownies? Where's that oil? Oh my gosh. If anybody ever tells you to get brownies, and no, I'm not talking about the chocolate thingies. If anybody tells you to get brownies, don't do it. It's a prank. They're like the Smurfs, but you know, not a TV show. Bloody brownies, where'd you put it? I'm only looking for one thing, and now they're probably going to be like, oh, he means this? We'll put it right in his face in 3, 2, 1. Really? Oh, you're killing me, dude. Give me that. Well, I like to say that brownies, I mean, I love them to death, but they drive me nuts because they're like, oh, you wanted this? This was the thing you wanted? Oh, it's not there no more. Oh, is he throwing a hissy fit? Now we're going to put it right in front of him. Just to mess with them. Because they have been doing this for as long as I've existed with the Magical Side back in 2017. So, essentially how this thing works. I'm going to probably use the other one because that one doesn't have a big gape in it, I hope. Using this thing for magical reasons. So, simple. So now you have your fan, but now you want to give it an intention. Okay. So you pretty much just bring it back to its void state. You can simply just selenite it away. Or be very ginger with this. You can put this in, well, in this case, it's going to be future smoke. And the oils I have in here is Douglas fir with frankincense and a little bit of lemongrass. Just gonna put that through there. So now this thing is blank and it's a void. And now we're gonna give this an intention. Now there's many ways you can give intentions to this. You can simply blow your intention on it, like that. I would not suggest putting this over a fire because it might catch fire and then you're gonna have a flaming fan of doom. I wouldn't suggest getting this overly wet because you might make it not be able to. You'll be throwing water all over the place. You could maybe put this on earth, but I would probably say the best way is just to use like an intention oil or put this through some smoke. In this case, we're just going to use the oil method. This is my kind of how am I going to put this? It's like a woozy woo mix, like a mix that kind of like has some people like, are you illegal? I am, but you ain't gonna get any. Best said. So now you have your fingers, greased with it. And just like anything else you're going to add attention to, start from the bottom and go all the way up on the sides like that. I'm going to re-grease my fingers. And then just like before, last time, you now go right down the middle, like the actual parts like right here. And now, because since this one's steeled, this one is a bit sharp, so I have to be very ginger with it. And when you're going up, when you get to the fabric, just the same thing again. Hold it together. And now this thing's imbued with the woozy woo mix. So now say if you have a certain target that you want to woozy woo and you're a bit of a ways away, you just simply have to figure out what direction that they're at. Like for an example, if I'm trying to woozy woo someone in the east, I have a compass out, but I kind of know the directions where I'm sitting. This way south, that way's north, that way is west, that way is east. So I would face this way. So now, essentially every time that now I use this fan and then when I visualize, pretty much whenever I have the wind go, or like I cut the wind, or if I'm fanning outward, the air that's getting hit by this fan, it's going to be like a woozy woo fan. No, wait, no. It's going to be like a woozy wind. Woozy wind? Okay. It's like, okay, I use woozy wind. What? God. That's the most bloody, flaming thing I've ever said in my life. Flamer, use woozy wind. God, what have I done? Woozy wind. So, pretty much, yeah. Using the woozy wind like that. So now, whenever you're fanning that way towards it, you're now pretty much sending that intention of woozing someone in that direction. But also include the person's name that you're casting it to. Or even then, you can also use the same method to woozy woo yourself and make people get woozied by you by just fanning yourself. So whenever you fan yourself, the air of woozy is hitting you in the face. And now that intention is now hitting you. And if you're sweating, since it's going to be cooling the sweat off, the sweat is going to go back into your skin, and then the intention is now going to go back into you. So now pretty much you're using your sweat as water, and now you're using this to afflict that with the intention to woozy people. So now you're really doing a double whammy. Not only you're woozing yourself by air, but also by water. Yeah, a lot with just one fan. That's how crazy you can get with this stuff. You can get really whimsical with it and outside the box. Just let that outer, well, not really outer, let that inner Aquarius out and you're good. You'd be surprised about how crazy you can get with this stuff. Yeah. I activate, well, joke's on you, you activated my trap card. What is it? It's the woozy hole. Oh boy. I don't know what it was. I'll probably, oh, hold on. I kind of want to also do, oh boy. Also want to do some more, I don't know, just like how I did the reading yesterday. It felt kind of like off-kilter. So I'm probably going to change it up and probably only just do, I'm probably just going to have to figure out what kind of reading I'm going to do. Be like a love reader or a self-development reader or anything like that. And then pretty much just like the questions of like specific questions, then do that. But yesterday it felt so weird. But anyway, I'm probably going to go grab some food now because I haven't eaten all day. Need to have me eat, otherwise I'm going to be as skinny as, you know, that. And that was my finger. So I might be back later and I'm going to be doing Taurus. Oh boy, that's going to be a lot of fun to do that one. Oh boy, but we'll see what comes out with it. So I'll see you then.